It's a mile down the road, so I'm not going to be too far. We're still going to be making videos together.
You're making it out like you're going to New Zealand.
Yeah, but the extra time we've spent living with each other has been wonderful.
It has.
Nights at Infernos. Hello and welcome along to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV for what is going to be a preview of the Newcastle Fighting Fifth, Newbury's Coral Gold Cup Trophy and the big meeting of the weekend over at Fairyhouse on Racing TV, which is why it's the big meeting. That is the Hatton's Grace as well as the Drinmore Grade 1 racing there. You're going both days?
Yeah, going both days. Looking forward to going home and getting a couple of nice days racing in.
I bet. And the cards look possibly very interesting, so we're looking forward to cracking on with those. But before we do anything, and before you like this video, because you have to, because we're nearly at 20,000 subscribers, so we need all the help that we can get before Christmas to hit that target. But Cheltenham Racecourse are doing a special week-long discount.
This sounds intriguing.
On the festival. So if you are planning on going to the festival or you want to bring your dad for a Christmas present, now is the time to get involved. If you go over to the Cheltenham Racecourse website, you can get up to 30% off the Cheltenham Festival tickets, which is a big saving, especially as they're not the cheapest. We all know that. Racing hopefully can be more and more affordable down the line. And this is a step in the right direction for this week only. So if you do want to get involved, then do please have a look at the Cheltenham website. The link will be in the description. And do get some of that juicy 30% off.
Oh, might have to go in myself.
Yeah, so do go down below. Christmas presents, anything like that, just get yourself to the festival. It's the best week of the year. It's the adult Christmas. So very much looking forward to being there, hopefully for the Tuesday, Wednesday, and maybe the Thursday and Friday, who knows. But do get yourself down there for Cheltenham in March. The festival is just simply the best, and it's something that we're building up to even now in November. So looking forward to that, but we've got so much racing to go before then, and this weekend is right up there with some of the best before that big week. And before we get into the video, how would you sum up the season so far? I want to get a rough opinion. Is it a case of last weekend really stoking the coals?
I think so, yeah. The John Durkan especially was something I think racing needed. I think it's been slightly sluggish start to the season. I think that can often happen when there's a lot of good ground around. You don't see many of the good horses out in October, early November. But the last week or two we've seen an awful lot of the better novices come out, and that John Durkan, geez, if that couldn't get you enthused for the season ahead, you're in the wrong sport.
Talk to me about Factorfile, Galopin des Champs and Spillans Tower now moving forward.
Yeah, fantastic race. Factorfile, I said it last week, he could easily prove me wrong, and he did. Must have a massive chance in the Gold Cup. Spillans Tower was superb, considering Jimmy Mangan said he was only 90% fit. I'm not sure whether he was almost being ridden to come fourth, and then, oh look, we're going really well here. And then Galopin des Champs, that was
brilliant run.
That was the best he's almost ever run at Punchestown, I'd have said. People are saying changing of the guard on Twitter. Maybe they will be right in time. I'm yet to be convinced. I think they need to beat Galopin over 3 miles at Leopardstown before we can actually think that's the case.
A great weekend of racing, and you did say that a changing of the guard possibly in the staying chase division. I disagree. But you could almost say something similar in the 2 mile hurdling division. State Man beaten.
He was.
Brighter days ahead gets the better of him.
Yeah, well done you. You have been banging on about this mare for as long as I can remember. I don't think there's been a day in this house you haven't mentioned her name.
Yeah, she's just very good, isn't she?
She is very good.
She'd have been a frightening prospect going chasing, although you'd like to think she'd respect her fences a bit more than her hurdles.
Potentially so, yeah. No, she has a way of getting from A to B, that's for sure. State Man looked like he'd strip a lot fitter for the run, I thought. I'm no paddock expert, but he looked a bit on the chubby side.
Yeah, I think that definitely the case of she just had a run probably massively helped her. She showed massive heart, considering she didn't jump great. She was passed by State Man and she still got back up, so maybe stamina came into it, I don't know, but I think it was just fitness in my opinion. I think if they were to run that race again in 3 weeks' time, I think State Man would reverse the form, and I think that distance is only going to grow throughout the season. But
It does open up that division, though.
It does.
You've obviously got Constitution Hill doing the hokey cokies in one day, he's out the next day. Man's now been beaten.
And then we're possibly going to have a look at champion hurdlers this weekend. So that's a beautiful segue into our preview. Friday, first, I'm going to speak very quickly about the John Frankham at Newbury, a Grade 2 novices chase for 2.5 miles. And interestingly, the top two in the market are two horses who've actually not seen jump a fence in public, that being Captain Teague, who won a walkover at Exeter, and the Jukebox Man, who hasn't run over fences yet, but went down in those massive battles last year over 3 miles for Stella Story at Cheltenham and at Aintree as well. Then you've got Johnny Hugh in there, Masaccio. We've seen those over fences, a bit more sturdy, but maybe not as classy. Is it a case of... I actually think this is a case of if the front two can jump well, it's going to be a proper ding-dong. I think they're both very good.
Yeah, no, I think they are. Look, I was a little bit concerned, I suppose, going into this season about the Jukebox Man, just how much those two gruelling races, relatively back-to-back, would pay on him. But he's over 2.5 miles. They've given him plenty of time. I'd like him more than Captain Teague as a horse, personally. It's one of those hard ones. It's a race I'd be sitting out because I wouldn't know. Like, if Johnny Who's going to win a race like this all year, it's going to be this race. He's going to count on a bit of experience and stuff like that. He was quite good at Carlisle, but I think overall I'd like the Jukebox Man to win. He's the horse of all of them that strikes a chord with me most.
Okay, I'm going to go Captain Teague. I'm going to go the Paul Nicholls cap on.
Paul Nicholls horse?
Yeah. Yes. I think he's going to be a really, really smart novice chaser. I wasn't in love with him as a novice hurdler. He did prove me wrong a bit, winning the Challow.
That was an ordinary Challow.
It was. But I do feel that he's... Has he not got the better of both Johnny Hugh and the Jukebox Man before?
I think so, yeah. But I don't know.
Just think he's got maybe a slight bit of class about him over this trip.
Potentially so, yeah. He might have a little bit more gears than the Jukebox Man, I'll concede that. I just don't know. Captain Teague last year, he just didn't convince me for some reason. He had a little bit of an awkward way of going about. He got beaten at the November meeting by the Evan Williams horse, and I didn't really ever forgive him for that.
He's a bit slow, but he doesn't
stay.
He doesn't. Yeah, he's an odd one. You know, he doesn't look when you're watching him visually. He doesn't look very quick.
No,
but he can win, obviously, Grade 1s over 2.5 miles of a hurdle. So I'm not sure. I personally feel that Captain Teague is going to improve drastically for a fence. I think Paul Nicholls has always had that in mind for him, and he is just that kind of the chain, and Paul Nicholls churns out 3 mile novice chases. I think he's going to be one of them, and I think he's probably going to run here and probably will be his Courto Star horse for a Kempton on Boxing Day. It'd be fascinating. I just personally think Captain T's got a tiny bit of a class advantage on the Jukebox Man, but I'll be willing to be proven wrong. The long distance hurdle on the same day, this is a pretty average race. Strong leader there, 10 to 11 favourite. Langadan, second favourite, 15 to 8. You've got Montmiral, Flight Deck.
It's a bad race.
It's a bad race. I think Ollie Murphy will be over the moon that those three are turning up.
Yeah.
Langadan.
He's not our favourite on this podcast.
Well, if you were to believe Dan Skelton, he's not going to raise a leg on Friday because he doesn't simply like this time of year, and it's just a case of he loves the spring, he loves the sun on his back, he likes a pina colada by the beach, a bit more warmer weather, and he turns up.
But he loves doing this, Dan Skelton, and I'm not for a second going to accuse him for telling lies, but at the same time, the last 2 Coral Cups have been run in absolute swamps, and yet we're apparently meant to believe that he's waiting for a kind of nice weather and nice ground.
Yeah.
He's a funny horse. I don't know. I'd like to hope this year he'll be campaigned on its merits. I was very much...
it's going to take a serious job to get him down to a winnable mark in the Coral Cup.
They can't do that. No, they can't do it this year. I was very annoyed they did it last year. It wasn't one of my favourite festival moments. I'd have thought, though, Strong Leader should be winning this. He obviously won the Aintree race. Montmiral, I suspect they're working back from the Pertemps. Flight Deck's just not good enough. The good thing, I think, for Strong Leader is sometimes he's a bit leery when he's in front, but Flight Deck is a confirmed front runner, so he should be able to get a lead for a fair amount of time, and that should be the winning of the race.
There's no stamina doubts for Strong Leader as well.
No.
So, yeah, I think he's a worthy favourite. It's a race I will not be touching from a punting point of view. Saturday at Newbury, it's the Coral Gold Cup. I'd actually say this is probably the worst Coral Gold Cup, or formerly Hennessy Ladbroke Trophy, that I've ever seen.
It's an ordinary race, yeah. Like even last year, like I know the race has gotten a bit of a pelter over the last 6 or 7 years, but last year, yeah, That's All Right, Gino and Maller, Mission, two proper, probably grade 2 horses, off big enough weights, duking it out. Like there's almost nothing in this race. No. I couldn't find a thing. Like Colonel Harry's the favourite.
He won't stay.
I wouldn't have thought he'd stay. I suppose he's one of the very few that looks like he has a little bit of upside.
Yeah, true.
But no, it wasn't a race. Like for such a competitive handicap, I felt very bad. But like for such a competitive handicap, I genuinely couldn't have thought of anything worse than getting through it.
Yeah, well, we won't even touch on it. Fighting fifth at Newcastle on the same day, Sergino versus Mystical Power.
Now this is the type of race we need to be discussing.
This is a good race. Some others in there, including Brentford Hope, but the two standouts are Sergino, Mystical Power. I'm of the opinion that Mystical Power, with age on his side, it just screams at me the bet, but I just can't get away from Sergino as well. I just think that Sergino's possibly got that absolute superstar potential.
Yeah, I probably harbour the same feeling. Mystical Power got better as the season went on last year. I don't know whether that's a sign of him just generally improving.
I think it was.
Or a case of maybe as the season progresses he'll get better. Yeah, I don't know. I look at Sergino and he was so good last year, but he is still so unfurnished. Like, you look at the last 3 hurdles at Aintree, took all of them home with him, but he still beat Cargies, who's a Grade 1 winner in her own right, 2-time Grade 1 winner at that.
He's schooled over fences, that was the plan.
Yeah, so is he going to be a little bit high, a bit circumspect at his hurdles? That being said, Mystical Power probably wants a little bit of nicer ground. I think there's caveats to both of them. I probably, which is unlike me, would probably lean in on the hope that the Henderson horse is the real deal.
Yeah, I just can't get my head around it. It's a brilliant race.
It's a quality race, and I wouldn't be surprised if it went either way. But I think you've got to hope that Sergino, I think it'd be good for racing if Sergino was good.
I agree. I think it's almost the perfect opponent for Sergino at this stage of his career if he is going to go down that champion hurdle route, because you wouldn't want him to bump into State Man, Lossiemouth, or Brighter Days Ahead, because I think he'd get beat. But Mystical Power, from Willie's point of view, seems a level below them.
Yes.
So it'd be fascinating to see.
It's great that the two of them are running against each other. Usually this race is an awful spectacle with something that Six is on. But the fact that they're both going at it, both of them have, in a weird way, similar profiles. I think it's a fascinating race, but I'd be hoping that Sergino will come out on top.
Sunday at Fairyhouse looks unreal. The Grade 3 Juvenile Hurdle, we could see Willie de Hugh, the big hype horse from France, making his hurdling debut for Willie Mullins. Not hurdling debut, but debut for Willie Mullins in the Grade 3 Juvenile Hurdle. They think that he's going to be a superstar. Is he? We'll find out. The Grade 2 Royal Bond Officers Hurdle, Romeo Coolio is 4-5 favourite. Bellocchio 4-1, who was very good over hurdles during the summer, but has since gone back on the flat. I think Romeo Coolio will go and win, but I don't think he's going to have it all his own way, which I'm looking forward to seeing, actually.
No. I thought Romeo Coolio would bolt up.
Absolutely hack up.
Yeah, I thought he'd win easy. The problem with Bellocchio, he's a very good flat horse, likes a little bit of cut in the ground as well, but like his maiden hurdle, like Yen Tong Enki was second favourite in that race. True. And like I love Yen Tong Enki, but he's no more than a 1.
Yeah, but he was very impressive, Bellocchio.
He jumped like a table, though.
I think that he's going to give Romeo Coolio a bit of a race.
Like I'm a big fan of Romeo Coolio. I've backed him for the Supreme. Now maybe he won't be good enough to win a Supreme, perhaps not, but he'd want to be winning this. Yeah, he'd want to be winning it pretty nicely.
I think he will win. I think it'll be more of a race than people expect. The Grade 1 Drinmore comes next. Now, I can't really understand why Firefox is 11-10. I think it should be shorter. I understand that Hartwood comes in with the profile of Iron Maximus in the sense of a second season novice or a novice till the end of this year. Is that right?
End of calendar year.
Obviously, I think rated 155. I get it, but Firefox is a bit better than him over this trip, surely.
You'd like to hope so. I'd have a little bit of a doubt over him at 2 mile 4 on soft ground.
Really?
Yeah. I just still think an ace. I thought He was good at Down Royal, but it was on nice ground. He was able to dictate his own fractions. I love Firefox. I'd love him to win. I'd love him to hack up. I'm not a huge fan of Heartwood. I hate these horses that are running in a novice chase the year after when they've already won a race. Iron Maximus did it last year. Does nothing for me. It's nothing to do with the trainer or the owners. They're more than entitled to run, as that's the rules. But it's a little bit like Redemption Day in the bumper. Like it just doesn't really sit with me. But that being said, he brings good form to the table. It's just one of those races. I've seen this happen before where I really, really want something to happen, and then the horse that you don't really want to win but has the proven form would outstay him or something. I hope that doesn't happen, but I wouldn't be having my last 20 quid on it.
I'm really hoping that Firefox is a bit more of a man this year.
Yeah, no, and me too. You know how much I like the horse, but it's just one of those. I think it's a banana skin. Like Heartwood is like going to Crystal Palace away on a Monday or something. Like it's just an awful fixture.
And as a United fan, I know that's not usually a good thing. The Grade 1 Hatton's Grace Hurdle comes next. It looks like it's going to be Tiupu versus Lossiemouth on ground that will favour Tiupu, but Lossiemouth for me is just got a bit too much class in my personally think.
Yeah, she's a Rolls Royce.
She is.
She's a very, very good mare. She's got speed.
Well, he's a wonderful, wonderful horse. He's beaten Honeysuckle in this. He's beaten Imperi Parsoness. I don't know why we're doubting him, but for me, I just think Lossiemouth will have too much speed.
But this is it. Is Gordon Elliott, if he runs a very creditable second to Lossiemouth, beating a couple of lengths, Gordon Elliott's there thinking, quality. We will win another Stayers Hurdle now. The thing as well, only 4 entries. Tiupu will need it to be a test of stamina to have any chance of winning, and I just don't see how that's going to happen.
No.
Unless they send Beacon Edge kind of well out in front, but he's a bit leery in front. So I just think it would be one of those races where Paul Townend will be sitting on Jack Kennedy's tail, and immediately he says go, he'll just be there going, yeah, well, you make your move, mate.
Yeah, I agree. I think she'll have too much class. Right, horses to note. We've got a few. Newbury on Friday, Regent Stroll makes his hurdling debut in the maiden hurdle, the opening contest. On Saturday at Newbury, Durancan versus the New Lion in a 2.5 mile novice hurdle. That's going to be a good race there.
That's quality there.
That's going to be top class. At Newcastle at 11:50. Remember when James Owen won the race at the November meeting with the horse whose name escapes me?
East India Dock.
East India Dock. And he was so impressive. And then asked afterwards, is your Triumph horse? No. Actually, we've got one better at home. Well, that horse is called Lavender Hill Mob, and he's entered in the 11:50 at Newcastle on Saturday. So if he is the best juvenile in James Owens' yard, he's going to put on a bit of a show. And he's got Nico de Boinville booked, which is very interesting. At the 2:45 that day, Royce returns for his second start of the hurdles. Much weaker contest. I suspect he will strip fitter for the run. I spoke to Ben Pauling at Newbury in the week, and he said he was delighted with him, just blew up a bit, wasn't particularly ready, and will come on massively for it. So I suspect that he will go and win. Fairyhouse at 3:40, Marjack's Hill and He Can't Dance entered in the bumper. We didn't see them last weekend. Calypso Chance was a good winner, but I think these two could be a bit classier than him. Very much looking forward to Marjack's Hill and He Can't Dance. They're getting warmer vibes from him as well. And then Sunday, 12:55, Carlisle, Colwell Potter's chasing debut over 2 miles. Fascinating. Very much looking forward to it as well. So there are your horses to note. Now it is time for best bets. Take it away.
I've got 2 for this weekend. I think it's a hard weekend. I think a lot of the graded races don't strike me as enormous betting opportunities. I've got one at Doncaster on Friday, very unlike me. But in the 12:55, a 2 mile 5 maiden hurdle horse called Mallycash for Donald McCain and Brian Hughes. Was with Ewan Willans last year, had some nice form. Has ran twice over hurdles for Donald McCain this season and has shaped nicely on both occasions. Second at Kelso, 5th at Aintree. This is a weaker race. I think he'll go very well. And then 2:30 at Fairyhouse on Saturday, a 2 mile 4 furlong rated novice hurdle, a horse called Lieutenant Maine, who I've talked about a little bit on the Racing TV column, that people should obviously go and check if they haven't already. Yep. I thought he's very impressive at Naas. He's owned by the McNeil and Stone families for John McConnell. I think it's the first horse they have had with him. He won 2 bumpers in England last year, impressively. Won at Uttoxeter by 10 lengths one day, won at Naas by 20 lengths the other day. Mickey Mouse race. goes up in grade, but I think he'll be well up to it. I think he's a real above-average horse.
I wish you the very best of luck with those. Now, I'm going to hold my hands up. My best bets have been absolutely atrocious this year.
Well, jeez, don't look at mine.
on the podcast, but I'm going to win you back, you wonderful people who watch Let's Talk Racing, and that is because I've found a winner for you who's 8-1. Queen's Gamble will go and win the Jerry Fielden at Newbury on Saturday, I'm convinced. Runs in the 225. She was a top class bumper horse. She won at Cheltenham twice. She ran in the champion bumper. She was disappointing. She went novice hurdling. She was very, very good. The last time we saw her, she beat Casa Namento in a listed race, I think at Taunton, listed mares novice hurdle. Casa Namento then went on and won twice.
Yeah.
Won at Punchestown. Is rated 138 over hurdles. Queen's Gamble turns up here, yes, albeit after a 336-day layoff. But she turns up here for 130.
Yeah.
I think she's well in. I think she's a good bit well in. And this has always been the target. I spoke to Harry Durham before the season started. He said this was going to be the race for her. Harry is finding a knack at targeting these races, these handicaps. She'll be completely ready for this. And I think she'll take a really, really good bit of beating. And looking at her opposition, I'm not particularly worried. I don't like Gerica de Repene as a horse, in the slightest. I don't think he's a 2-miler. I think his jumping was found out in the Supreme over 2 miles. He didn't jump. He jumped the worst in the field. I think he lost lengths at every single hurdle if you're looking at race IQ data. I don't like the fact that he ran at Sandown the other day and it was a shadow of himself from what we've seen before. I think might be scarred from that. I just don't like him, even if he's returning back to hurdles. He might be well in on what he showed at the start of his career, but I just do not think he's a 2-mile. I think he's a proper stayer. Liari ran well at Chepstow when I was there, but still disappointed me. I think he should have gone and won that. I think he'll come on for it. But he's running off the same weight as Queen Gamble, and he's a 4-year-old. Yeah. Queen's Gamble's a 6-year-old. She's coming to her absolute prime. I think 130 really underestimates her, and I think she'll take a really, really good bit of beating. She's 8-1. I think she's a big price. Jonathan Burke's going to ride her, and she's going to win.
But that's what I want to do.
She is going to win. So I hope you can forgive me for my poor performance in the best bet so far. I'm going to make it up to you this weekend to go and back Queen's Gamble, obviously. Gamble responsibly as well. There you go. That's it.
Very easy.
I very much wish you well on your endeavours.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I'll have to see how Saturday night goes, whether I'll be making a frequent to the local church for a bit of sing-song. I suppose we should mention just our final passing thought. Obviously, the Marine and Mikey Bigstone's days have unfortunately gone to rest in peace.
Marine and Sean Flanagan.
Doesn't really work, does it, unfortunately? No. We're all standing with you, Mikey.
We are. We stand with Mikey, the man, the myth, the Stones. Shame that partnership has now come to an end for whatever reason, and I hope that both of them go on to do well, Barry Connell and Mikey O'Sullivan, but especially Mikey. Also, we've got a semi-bit of sad news.
Tell me the sad news.
We're not going to be living with each other next year. We chucked it in at the end of this podcast for those who actually care.
We've had a Barry Connell and Mikey O'Sullivan split.
We have. Unfortunately, due to relationships and whatnot, I have to be very careful with my words. I'm moving out of the house with you, Bully and Nickel. Yeah, I'm gonna have to hold the fort, hold down the law, but now you're moving on to bigger and better things. I'm not sure it's bigger and better. It's a mile down the road, so I'm not going to be too far. We're still going to be making videos together. You're making it out like you're going to New Zealand. Yeah, but the extra time we've spent living with each other has been wonderful. It has. Nights at Infernos. Not good for my liver. Not good for the liver, but it's been extremely enjoyable, and videos might look ever so slightly different. We're still going to be next to each other. It's still going to hopefully look as good, sound as good, hopefully look better and sound better. But yeah, we're not going to be in this room anymore. Oh, the good old days. The good old days. Well, we'll end on that somber note. I hope you have a brilliant weekend, and I hope you back loads of winners, including Queen's Gamble. I'll see you in a bit.